Nice to see y'all.
Same here, yeah. So you made it, you came out.
I did. I made it. I'm very excited. I am a double striker right now. I'm on strike, double strike. I'm happy to be able to talk about this project because it is an audio project. But again, I'm SAG-AFTRA WJ Strong. Like we got to stand up and do that.
So going off of that, what made you want to tell this specific story in this format?
So this project was my dream TV project, actually, and I tried to sell it in 2015. It was my follow-up to other things I've done, and it didn't happen to sell, and it was very heartbreaking because I had put everything into it. But the wonderful thing is that I got the opportunity to talk to Audible about doing it, and they decided to do it, and they were like, "You're doing 10 episodes," which was such an incredible gift. And because it happened to be over COVID, I wrote pretty much everything myself. So, when you're writing 10 episodes of essentially television, I made it exactly the way I wanted to make it. And I will say that, having been a part of a torturous development process through Hollywood over and over again, this was an incredible experience. And it's exactly the way I want it to be.
What's your favorite thing about Laurel?
My favorite thing about Laurel is the arc that she goes through. The reason I wanted to tell the story was I didn't want to do something fantasy, I wanted to talk about something fantastical, but I also want to talk about a failed prodigy. I was a violinist when I was a kid. I was a prodigy in that, and I was also kind of a prodigy in the internet world because I was so early. But with that kind of overachievement at a very early age, you kind of can't ever live up to the expectations that people have for you. And having that sort of crushing self-doubt and not really valuing yourself for who you are was something I really wanted to talk about. And so I was able to put that in this very common trope of all the genre stuff that I love, which is the chosen one. Somehow, you're anointed to be the one to save humanity or supernatural world. And what if you fail? How do you live with yourself? How do you live at all? And how do you heal yourself in a way? And that's what I wanted to talk about. So that's what I love about Laurel is this journey I take her through, and the fact that it parallels a lot of the healing I've done personally in my life.
Did you write the script with anyone in mind for the voices, or was it just kind of okay?
I mean, I definitely wrote a part for Will Wheaton because he's one of my favorite collaborators. He's so incredible in this part. I think it's one of the funniest things I've ever heard him in, and it's also heartfelt. All the people who are in the cast, except for I think one person, was a personal friend of mine, and that one person, who is London Hughes, blew me away. So my friend Jonah Ray, who I worked on with many projects with, he came in and did the vocal direction because I worked with him on camera and we worked so well together. I was like, "Can you direct this for me?" And I said, "We have one of the main parts uncast, and it's my best friend, so it's one of the most important parts." And I just have this idea of this, hot mess, British girl, and I don't know somebody like this. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I know this girl who I did stand up with." And I watched 15 seconds of a YouTube video of her stand up, and London Hughes I fell in love with her. If you meet her, you're gonna fall in love with her too. She's a star, and she's one of the sweetest, most talented people, and she embodies hot mess in the best way. So yeah, everybody, of course, I've always wanted Neil Gaiman to do the narrator, but you never know. But thank goodness everybody was able to make time to do the part, and honestly, it's a dream cast. Everybody just brings the characters to life in ways I could never even imagine.
And during the production for this, did you want to have a part where all the voice actors come together to interact with each other?
Yeah, that's really interesting. A lot of the time, you can hear audio things, and you can tell they aren't in the same room together. And that was something I think Jonah really added, is that he added that sort of on-camera energy, so that we know that we never had stale, weird moments where we didn't feel like people were physically in a space together. There were a couple of relationships that were super important that I was like, we have to have these people in the room together at all times. And I was there for everybody. So my character was there with everybody, but me and Sybil, me and Danny Pudi, me and, Lily Pichu, who plays Kate, one of the major characters, Sybil and Will Wheaton, Janet Varney and Sean Astin. There were just certain characters we needed to have. I wanted that chemistry together, and I wanted them to be able to play with each other. And those kind of unscripted, even or a gasp or something. You can't script those when you're gonna, you can't script them, but they only come out of being with the other actor. So yeah, Audible was able to help us, and Mumble and Clamor, the production entities, Clamor was able to help us schedule it so we could get a lot of the actors in person, which was really cool.
Talk about your villain a little bit, Titus. Was there any specific inspiration behind that character?
Which one? Titus?
Titus, yeah.
Well, again, we have the chosen one against the big bad, right? And these prophesized characters who take over, all of our fantasy and sci-fi tropes, right? But at the same, and Christopher Judge plays that part, and it's because I loved him in God of War so much. He's such an incredible performer and actor in person. So I was so thrilled when he agreed to do it because this is an audio, it's an audio project. It's different. I'm just so thrilled. And at the same time, everybody had to be funny, and it's really hard being the biggest badass evil person and also be funny, and he nails it every step of the way. So I'm really excited for people to hear him play this character. Again, the style of the project, it's a comedy fantasy, but it's not sketch. Nobody's playing a sketch character. These are real characters, real stakes, real life or death circumstances, and that's what I wanted to imbue in the project.
I know you have a background, video game inspiration. Is this going to have anything like that in any of the episodes?
I mean, there's certainly a lot of Easter eggs. Yeah. There's some funny jokes about Final Fantasy and other tropes that we I dropped some. I try not to fill it with lots of references, but every episode has a couple that I think people hopefully will laugh at because it's part of our world, that kind of quippy humor. And again, I used it sparingly, but there's one line about Benihana that's one of my favorites. So you guys let me know when you hear it.
Can't wait.
Yeah. And you can also download the first episode right now at audible.com/Third Eye. They're going to make it available just for a couple weeks. I think they're at Comic-Con, so it's really cool that you can hear a whole episode, which tells you how much content there is, that they're going to sneak preview the first episode, but we got 10 episodes.
To what extent do you exist in our world? Are they aware of other magical or wizarding type worlds?
So basically, the world building is very deep because I'm into world building, and we don't even get to explore, but the tip of an iceberg of the world, which is really interesting. But we stay in our world, but basically there's a supernatural world that's secret among us. And like I said, there's an unhoused person might be, a legendary Russian folklore god or something like that. So everybody exists, all the creatures and people from folklore and fantasy exist, but they're hidden amongst our world. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. I want people to listen to this and then drive down the street and be like, oh, I wonder if that psychic shop is a front for a fairy. I really want to bring magic to the world that we have around us versus escape into a different world. That's this one is all about grounding in reality, and that kind of is reflected with the soundtrack. Most of the songs, which are amazing, are from the 60s and 70s, so it really is. I wanted a place and a time of San Francisco with that kind of vibe, that hippie vibe. I wanted that to be embodied in the world. Thank you so much. Yeah, bye.
Bye.